We are grateful to the briefers, the Special Representative of the Secretary General, Mr. Yamamoto, and the head of the Office on Counterterrorism and Office on Drugs and Crime, Mr. Voronkov and Mr. Fedotov, respectively. We thank them for an in-depth analysis of the current situation in Afghanistan. The assessments that they voiced confirm the fact that the terrorist and drugs threats are the main barriers towards stabilizing the situation in the country. And the conclusion here is this: we need to relentlessly combat them and to do that together. The most serious concern still comes from the security situation in Afghanistan. The Taliban movement controls a sizable chunk of the country's territory. And yet another offensive that the insurgents started gives rise to serious questions about how ready they are to start peace talks. All of this yet once again confirms us that it was erroneous to think that the problem can be resolved by force through marginalizing one regional forces and getting close to others. These kinds of balancing acts only increase regional tension. They antagonize those players who can contribute towards the settlement. A factor in the deterioration of the situation is the Islamic State. This is a group which has up to 10,000 fighters in its ranks, and it is already active in at least 9 out of 34 provinces, and is increasingly frequently organizing barbarous acts of terror with many victims, including in Kabul, and is consistently consolidating its positions in the north of the country by turning into a springboard for later expansion into Central Asia. We're particularly concerned by the fact that the ISIL people are creating training camps for the fighters, including those who come from Central Asian states. And these are facts which we cannot shy away from. Against this background, once again, we heard accusations that the Taliban movement is being supported by Russia. And this is not new. In the recent years, we have heard many a time that this kind of information was planted, and basically the same wording was being used without any kind of underlying substance. We are left with a very firm impression that the true goal here is to divert the attention from those real and numerous mistakes which have been made in Afghanistan over the past 17 years. One of the sources of support for insurgents is the military assistance extended to the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan by a number of our partners, which is being carried out without proper accounting and sometimes just simply stolen. We would like to draw your attention to the fact that Western military experts also point this out. Nor did we receive clear explanations as regards the transfer of weaponry and ISIL fighters using unmarked helicopters through the airspace over Afghanistan, the airspace which is fully controlled by our partners. What we're seeing is, once again, consistently, the people are trying to pass over this in silence. In this context, our request that the situation be immediately investigated and this covert practice be stopped immediately remains in force. We expect a true report on this rather than just simply a formulaic response. And generally speaking, the authorities in Afghanistan and the foreign contingents there need to be more decisive in trying to remove the terrorist elements from the north of the country. As was stated, and rightly so, by Mr. Fedotov, the terrorist threat issue is inextricably linked with the drug issue. The drugs from Afghanistan provide financial support to terrorists. In 2017, the drug crop area in the country increased by 63%, whereas the drug production grew twofold. All of this compounds the drugs threat to Afghanistan itself as well as internationally. Obviously, that what the situation requires is increasing our collective efforts. Otherwise, it will get out of control completely. Let me recall that here, the Collective Security Treaty Organization is always ready to help here. The organization has vast experience in combating the drugs threat, including through its Canal operation. At the same time, we think that the decisive role here needs to be played by the Afghan people themselves. After all, it is the people of the country who is the chief victim of the illegal dealings. We welcome the announcement made by the President of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, Mr. Ghani, when he announced and then extended the temporary ceasefire. It's important that these steps did not apply to the existing international terrorist groups in Afghanistan, first and foremost, ISIL. We would like to express the hope here that the peaceful initiatives will provide a new impetus to ending the fratricidal war in Afghanistan and will be a beginning of a peaceful dialogue and the national reconciliation. We urge the Taliban movement to reciprocate. We reaffirm our support to the existing formats for national reconciliation in Afghanistan. At the same time, we're convinced that the principle of honest and equal partnership was taken into account the interests of all in the region, the principle which is the basis of the Moscow format, and the mechanism underlying the reviewed contact group within SCO Afghanistan, is something that optimally fits with the launching of the negotiating process. Here, we'd like to successful holding on the 28th of May in Peking of the second meeting of the SCO Afghanistan contact group. The members unanimously confirmed their readiness to move forward the activity of the group on the basis of a protocol, the protocol which determines the priority tasks and the modalities for this mechanism. The parliamentary and then the presidential elections are nearing in Afghanistan. We support their holding them on time and note the statement made by the authorities that voter registration has been successfully completed. It's important under these conditions to make sure that the internal policies are considered and measured. We should not avoid the Afghan society to be polarized following their ethnicity or infringing upon the rights of minorities. The elections should be inclusive, become a powerful consolidator, one more step towards the country's obtaining political and economic independence and returning Afghanistan to sustainable development. It is obvious to us that this issue could be helped by ensuring there is wide regional and international cooperation. And Russia is ready for such a constructive work.